my name's Jessie. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing my first June mini wrap-up, so these are the 4 most recent books I have read, and I will do little mini reviews of each one so you can see if you are interested in picking them up yourself. So without further ado, let's just get right into the video. The first book I read was The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. So I immediately picked this book up after finishing The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James because I absolutely loved that thriller. That one just came out this year, so definitely go pick that one up because it is so good, such a spooky, ghostly thriller. And The Broken Girls definitely stays in that same kind of genre of spooky, ghostly, fun thrillers that I really am loving right now. The Broken Girls follows 2 different timelines, one in the past that follows this group of girls that lives in this home for troubled children or girls, if you will. And so these girls are kind of coming together to not only just try to fit in amongst themselves and get over some of their past traumas, but they're also trying to investigate this haunting of this home that they think is occurring. And then you've got the present day timeline that is following a woman whose sister was tragically murdered, and she thinks that something funky is going on with the case. She doesn't think it was fully resolved, and so she kind of gets caught up with this home that was for broken children, if you will, that is now since destroyed. And she's trying to kind of link all of these clues from this home to her sister's murder, and it's just really fun. It reminded me a lot of The Sundown Motel because you kind of get both timelines building up tension right with each other and kind of colliding at the same time. That is really fun to experience. I will say that this one felt a little bit slower paced and didn't have quite as much of the scares and thrills that I loved in The Sundown Motel. Some of the imagery in this one, while it was, I think, good, it just wasn't as fun as The Sundown Motel that really creeped me out. I loved that book so much. So I was just expecting a little bit more from this one, but it was still really good. The twist at the end definitely got me. I loved the character work in this book just like I liked in her other book, so I would still recommend this one. I ended up giving it 4 stars, and it's definitely a fun supernatural thriller if that is something that you enjoy. The next book I read was Armada by Ernest, Cline. I read Ready Player One by Ernest, Cline, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was so much fun. So Armada follows this boy who is this kind of video game nerd. He is really good at this one alien invasion game, but when this alien invasion game kind of becomes the reality and actual aliens start to invade, he gets recruited by this Earth Defense Force to combat these aliens because he has unknowingly been trained his whole life to do so and is really good at it. So this may sound like kind of a familiar premise. I feel like there's a movie, I think one of you commented that there was a movie kind of with a very similar premise, and I think that that's my main complaint about this book, is that it just didn't feel quite as original and fresh as Ready Player One did. Even though I haven't read a book that's exactly like this, I feel like I've kind of heard this story or read this story before, so it just didn't feel quite as original. And the character work in this book, just like in Ready Player One, is not the best. I don't think that that's where Ernest Cline really excels in his work. I think that he focuses much more on plot and action, which is very fun in this book, but the characters do kind of fall by the wayside, and I didn't really feel invested in any of these characters. And I think that this book has less of the fun and gets a little bit more serious than Ready Player One does, which is why I just didn't connect with it quite as much. Still found it a fun read. It's not a bad book by any means, and I would recommend it to you if you think that it sounds really interesting. I ended up giving it 3 stars, so not great. It didn't do anything to really wow me, but not bad by any means. I would definitely still recommend if you like a fun 80s inspired kind of alien invasion book. The next book I read was White Fragility by DiAngelo, and if you saw the title and the cover of this book and kind of squirmed in your seat or curled in on yourself or got really uncomfortable, that's exactly what this book is actually trying to explore and explain, is why we feel that discomfort. When Books with Shae announced her Blackout buddy read, that I will link all the information for down below if you want to check it out and join, this was one of the books that was a part of that, and so I put it on hold at my library and actually ended up getting it really quickly. So what this book is really trying to do is, it's not really a history book, it's not very solution oriented. Instead, what it's doing is it's trying to explain to you how and why racism still exists, and why our previous thinking on how to combat racism may not be the most productive or efficient way to do so in this society and climate. And it kind of has a lot of moments of self-reflection and confronts you with some pretty uncomfortable truths that are also really important. And it really does lay the foundation for you to understand maybe why this is such an issue, and makes you want to take action on it and makes you want to learn more about it. So I don't think that this is like the end-all be-all book on racism and everything around this topic. I think this is a great starting place for that. I think what it really makes you do is it makes you understand and empathize and want to learn more, because you're confronted with so many things that make you realize that you may be a part of the problem unknowingly, and you want to change and fix that. I have a really great quote that I wrote down that I thought I would share with you all that kind of really illustrates this point. The quote is, "Guilt is not a response to anger. It is a response to one's own actions or lack of action. If it leads to change, then it can be useful, since it is then no longer guilt, but the beginning of knowledge. Yet all too often, guilt is just another name for impotence, for defensiveness, destructive of communication. It becomes a device to protect ignorance and the continuation of things the way they are, the ultimate protection of guiltlessness." So I think that that's really important, because it really does illustrate to you that if you're looking at what's going on in the country and in the world right now, and you're angry or you're sad or you're disgusted or you feel helpless and you don't know what to do, what actions to take, I think that this is a really great opportunity to read this book and make yourself more knowledgeable about the topic and how to move on in your life in a more productive and effective way to better help heal this country and fight racism. I implore you all, if you are just looking around at what's going on right now in this country and saying enough is enough, then please pick up this book. It is a really, really great foundation. It's a really great beginning to want to take more action afterwards. So highly recommend. It totally changed my perspective on this topic and how to move forward in life as just more self-aware. So highly recommend. I ended up giving it 5 stars because it left such an impact on me and will change how I move about the world. I can't recommend it enough. Please, please pick it up and check out that Blackout buddy read if you do want to join Books with Shae. Her channel's great, so check it out anyway. Even if you don't want to join the buddy read, just check out her channel as well. It'll all be linked down below. So the next book and the final book I read in the month of June so far is Waking Gods by Sylvain Neuvel, the second book in the Themis Files series, which, oh my goodness, I am loving this series. So I ended up rating Sleeping Giants 5 stars, and I gave Waking Gods 5 stars as well. I am so impressed with this story and these characters and how much I just feel for all of them. I've actually been listening to the audiobooks, and I don't know if I would have the same experience if I was physically reading these books as I have while I'm listening to them. The audiobooks are really, really incredible because every character has a different voice, and the way this story is told, it's told in like these files, like case files and interviews. So the audiobook just works so well for books told in that kind of format. It also just adds these little like sound effects here and there that just really enhance the experience for this book. So I highly recommend, if you can get your hands on the audiobooks for these books, try to, because they are so good. Some of the best I've ever listened to, so compelling. It gets very political. There's a lot of thrills and just twists in this book. If you don't know at all what the Themis Files series is about, it starts off in the first book with our main character falling into this huge robotic hand as a child, and this kind of kickstarts her interest, sparks her interest in trying to figure out where the rest of this robot's body parts are on Earth, and trying to figure out where they came from, why. So she becomes this scientist in her future life, and it is so good. There are so many great characters. Oh, this book especially just like crushed me. Oh my goodness, it was so intense. So I can't recommend this series enough. Please pick it up if you like a good sci-fi thriller, and if you can get your hands on the audiobooks, do it. So those are the 4 most recent books I've read. Have you all read any of these, or are you interested in picking them up now? Definitely leave those comments down below. I love chatting with you guys about books. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe. I release new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And until next time, bye.